Hello, dear students, teachers, parents who are watching live, or those of you who will be watching the replay. I want to thank you for giving us some of your precious time to grow and learn with us. This session is both for youth and parents. So I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Azita Alavi, and I'm the Center of Youth Leadership and Certified Leadership Coach, Speaker, and Trainer. And I'm the responsible person for the John Maxwell Team Youth French. So I want to thank you for being here with us. So I'm going to start sharing my screen with you. Wonderful. Okay. I was just saying that in the course of my professional and personal life, I learned that the vast majority of people are not where they're supposed to be because they lack talent or potential or ability, not because of that, but because their mind is programmed to create what they don't want, the result they don't want. They wish to become successful, but their beliefs are controlling and limiting their results. I learned that all of us has the potential to be, do, and have much more in life. I know we can all be more successful, and what we're today and what we have achieved up to this day is not indicating our potential. What we see is the result of our awareness of our abilities and strengths up to this day. When we raise the ceiling of our understanding, of our awareness of who we are, guess what changes? Our results will change and improve. And so we get closer to our potential. The more we learn about ourselves, and our innate strengths and our weaknesses, the more we gain the power of controlling our life and improving our results. So if we don't see the results that we want to have in life, we shouldn't really look outside of us and blame other people or the environment or circumstances. But instead, we have to learn more about who we are, use and focus on our strengths, and create the life that we want. It's an inside job, my friends. So in my work as a leadership coach and trainer, I share practical, proven, and effective tools and techniques that help people raise their awareness and help them interrupt the old habitual ways of thinking and then replace them with new knowledge and habits that will translate into effective action and desired results. And I'm here today to share with you some of the things we all need to know so we can be, do, have more in life. By understanding ourselves better, we can get closer to fulfilling our potential. Okay, so if you're ready to jump on this ride with me, I get started. So there are basically a few things that can impact the level of success we experience in life. The first one is our thoughts, and that's probably the most important one. The quality of our thoughts determine our results. You know, the way we think will determine our life. Did you know that? In fact, whatever we think about, we will become. The thoughts, like everything else, are energy. And the energy of our thoughts can be positive or negative. So the positive energies create positive emotions in us. And as a result, they will lead to positive and supporting behavior from us. like the kind of behavior that will support us to take actions. Those actions that will help us to get the results we want. And you can guess what negative thoughts would do, right? I'm not going to say it here, but you probably have a good guess. So our thoughts create emotions and feelings, and these feelings create the behavior, and our behavior makes us take action, and obviously our actions will create the results. Now, I had a student who was really failing at math, and so we started working together. She told me she was not made for math, and whatever she was doing, she wouldn't get it. I knew I had to change her opinion about herself and help her think differently about herself. So as I was talking to her about the importance of her thoughts, we worked and practiced math, and then she started getting better and doing better. As her results changed, she became more motivated, and she started thinking differently about math and about herself. As she worked harder and harder, she felt better about math, and that feeling helped her to do more and work harder and get better results. I'm not saying she's a mathematician today. She's not, but she loves math. And she's doing pretty good, and she's getting good results and good grades. So the first step to having success in life is having positive and supporting thoughts about our abilities, about ourselves. So my student was talking to herself very negatively, right? She was just talking all the time about not being, able to learn math, and her brain wasn't made for math and all of those things. She was telling herself stories that were not true. And she was thinking the results she was getting were showing her potential in math. And that wasn't true at all. So let me tell you that your current result in any subject area in school, the results you're getting in any area in your life, not only at school, are not showing your potential. What you see is the amount of effort you have made up to this day, and the thoughts that you had about yourself up to this day that have created the results that you see right now. So if you change the effort you give, and you change your beliefs about yourself, what is changing? Your results, of course. So my student did the same thing, honestly. And she worked harder, and so as she did, her thoughts about herself changed. And because, she received better results, and then she worked even harder, and her results changed, and she got better and better. So what was she seeing wasn't her potential, but was the result of her previous actions and beliefs, okay? So what else can help us become successful? The first one, we talked about our thoughts. We have to have positive thoughts about ourselves and about our capabilities, and we have to put more effort into whatever we're doing. So we'll focus on what we have to doing with positivity. What is the second thing that helps us become more successful? That's our self-image. Our belief about ourselves is our self-image. The way we think about ourselves is very, very important. And we need to be careful how we talk to ourselves, how we think about ourselves. Why? Because our beliefs about ourselves, like I said, create feelings and emotions, right? And those feelings will create behavior that will either support us or destroy us. So watch your self-talk and be very, very careful about how also what other people say about you that is impacting you. Because it doesn't matter what other people say about you. What matters is what you think and say to yourself. The most important conversation we will ever have in our lives is the conversation we have with ourselves. Is our self-talk, because that conversation is creating an image of us in our mind. And then we will believe that image. And we think, behave, and act according to that image, to that belief. And you know the rest, right? So what is important is how you think about yourself and how you talk to yourself. Again, your brain is listening to you and is believing you. So our self-image is like a ceiling to our success. So this is a ceiling of our self-image, and underneath this is the success that we can have. And we can never surpass that ceiling, right? Become more successful. The only way we can do it is to raise that ceiling, the ceiling of self-image, and make sure that we have positive thoughts that will support our feelings, behavior, and actions to get the results that we want. How can we do that? We have to do that by observing our thoughts and by intentionally changing them, by using empowering and positive statements about ourselves, and by praising ourselves when we do things right. We also need to be kind to ourselves when we make mistakes. Let me tell you, a lot of people have a bad self-image because they feel really bad when they make a mistake. They can't forgive themselves and they blame themselves forever, right? So we need to know that mistakes will always happen, always, always. And we make mistakes whether we want them or not. And we make mistakes because we are learning and growing. In fact, if we don't make mistakes, it means we're not trying and we're not growing enough, right? So the only time mistakes actually turn into failure is when we don't learn from our mistakes. And when we don't learn from the valuable lessons from our mistakes, we have failed, because we will keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again, and maybe forever. So take time to evaluate your mistakes and learn from them. Now, the third thing that helps us become more successful after our self-image is it's knowing who we really are. It's understanding our strengths, our weaknesses, focusing on our strengths and developing them and using them, and also improving our weaknesses. But we should never focus on our really weaknesses, because you know, scientifically it's proven that people that work on the area that they're passionate about and they're good at, they made that way. Their brain is actually made that way, and so they can become really good in that whatever they're doing and they're passionate about. But when they work on the area that they're not good at and they just constantly have to improve themselves and their brain is not structured that way, then they become just average in that area. So you want to find out who you really are, what you're passionate about, what's your calling, and then you want to make a career out of that, because you know brain science has really proved that. The other thing we need to know to become successful in life, which is really, really, really important, and the next section actually we're going to just dedicate our time to that area, is managing stress and anxiety. It's very important for our sanity and for reaching success. So we need to know how to use our brain to think better and do better, and we need to learn about our brain and what we need to learn about stress. Okay, I think here I can actually stop sharing my screen because I don't want you to be distracted. Wonderful. So in this section, I really want to talk about our brain and how to not be how to actually overcome, not only overcome and manage stress that is caused by academic challenges or personal life, but to use the energy of stress and anxiety and turn it into action. The action that produces result. Isn't it awesome? So let's talk about why we're scared first. We're scared when we feel something is threatening our safety. We get scared when we think we will not pass that math exam. Fear is natural response of our brain, and it happens automatically. You see, we could be scared of failing at that math test or something much more important. For example, we could fear for our life. So fear can make us actually do one of the 4 things that we call fight and flight. The first thing we do when we're scared, we try to fight. The second reaction would be to freeze because we feel stuck and we are in shock. The third one, we might faint because we're too scared and can't handle the emotion, that fear. And the fourth one, we might just run away. So we get scared because our brain wants to protect us from danger, from uncertainty, and from unknown, right? It's almost like when a virus, let's say, attack our body, our white cells want to fight the virus, and the body's temperature rises to kill the virus, and white cells destroy the virus at the end. Same thing happens in the brain. So our brain becomes alert when we're scared, and then what happens is it fires off the chemicals that create the stress in our body. And so then we feel again the reaction of that fear in our body. And those chemicals gives us really energy, a lot of energy to do one of the 4 things that we said, which were fight, freeze, flight, and run away. So let's talk about what part of the brain is responsible for fear. Well, this part of the brain that creates, the fear is created there and is responsible for fear and anxiety is called amygdala. Amygdala is that part of the brain that is managing the stress, right? The stress and fear is created there and the hormones are released, okay? So our amygdala senses potential and or real danger and then orders the release of neurochemicals like cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, or adrenaline that are causing us to have stress, fear, and anxiety. So at that moment, the amygdala is controlling us and our thoughts. In fact, the thought of failing at our math test results in the release of stress hormones that will create negative emotions like fear and anxiety and stress. So if you want to pass that test, we need to make sure our thoughts are supporting us. Remember, we talked about that before, right? We said our thoughts create feelings and emotions that in turn create either supporting or destructive behaviors that are leading to good or bad action. And those actions, of course, create our results. So establishing an alignment between our beliefs and thoughts with our behavior and actions will create what we want and has a name, and it's called priming the brain. So the tips we're learning in this lesson after this, the strategies, are going to teach us how to calm the amygdala and prime the brain so you can get the results that you want. So let me give you some information about the brain. Did you know that your amazing brain only weighs about 3 kilograms, but it is made of 100 billion neurons or 100 billion brain cells? Our brain wasn't always this complicated, and it has revolved and evolved over the years. The primitive people basically had the brain, the simple brain that was called the reptilian brain, which was only responsible to keep them safe, right? Later, the human brain evolved into mammalian brain. And mammalian brain, actually, it was a little bit more advanced, but only allowed primitive people to control their emotions and feelings. And finally, a new part of the brain was developed, in actually the last millennia, and it's called the frontal lobe, or the decision making part of the brain, or the conscious mind. So the frontal lobe is the CEO of our brain, and it's responsible for our focus, concentration, decision making. So what does our frontal lobe do? Actually, our frontal lobe helps us to make good decisions and helps us to change our beliefs and thoughts, and help us to prime our brains. Okay, so now, do you know, actually now you have to think about this question: what are my thoughts made of? What are your thoughts made of? Did you know that? Your thoughts are made of neural connections. They actually do exist in your brain, right? When we think, we actually are creating new neural connections in the brain. And so they exist. It's not just a thought, it actually is neural connection. So our brain also has another section that is called the subconscious mind. And another reason change is difficult for us is because our brain wants to save energy. So instead of every time we make decisions that spend tons of energy, our brain prefers to go to the subconscious mind, the other part of our brain, where our experiences of the past, our memories and all of that are saved. And so our brain wants to use that reference to decide what to do, instead of really going to the frontal lobe and using tons of energy and making a decision. In fact, our brain wants to be on an automatic pilot, right? It wants to just go to the reference and pick up something that's already been decided, a memory, an experience, and just decide that way. So our subconscious mind, or our storage, is responsible for, listen to this, 97% of what we do. 97%. I mean, our subconscious mind is really responsible for the way we think and the way we behave. It processes over 400 billion bits of information per second. You see, if you want to do really well at that math test, but you're still scared that it means that your subconscious mind is not in an alignment with the decision-making part of your brain, or your frontal lobe. So your thoughts and beliefs are not supporting what you want to happen. Now, the only way to change that is to prime your brain. And that means you have to replace those limiting beliefs and thoughts about yourself with supporting and new thoughts. Now, I want to share with you a couple of questions that my students ask me all the time. And I think those answers will help you too. And let me stop here and tell you that after this, you are going to watch a video, and that video is an animation. That animation is going to give you a short review of what we studied together right now, and it's also going to share with you 7 or 8 strategies, extremely important, that you will need in order for you to manage stress. So I want you to watch the animation video, and I will let you know when we're going to start that video. But for now, I want to share with you some of the questions that my students ask me all the time, and I think those answers will going to help you. So the first question I'm being asked all the time is about self-image. So my students ask me, what do I do if I'm scared of saying something wrong? Because I feel, and I know people will laugh at me and will judge me, right? So the best way to get rid of fear is doing what scares us. That is my recommendation. So when we do something that is scaring us once intentionally, we realized that we were overthinking about this and it wasn't that bad. We thought it would be really, really catastrophic, but it's not. The second time we do it, we find out that, we're getting used to it, and we just needed to have courage. And after a few times, it won't bother us anymore, because that behavior registers in the subconscious mind and becomes an automatic behavior, a habit. So my suggestion to someone who is scared of the judgment and opinion of others, and for that reason they never express themselves and they're shy, is that say and express yourself, even if you're scared, okay? Do it. Be an explorer and be an observer and see what happens. You will realize that people are not really judging you. You are judging yourself. And after a while, when you do that, it becomes an automatic part of your behavior. It becomes a habit. And then you learn how to express yourself and be comfortable with yourself and be comfortable with other people. So if you don't, you are going to give your power to other people's opinion for the rest of your life. And I think you should start now and reclaim your power now, because it's your life and you're building your life. So it doesn't matter what other people will say. Just do as you want. Express yourself, be authentic. So don't be scared of other people's judgment. The second question I'm being asked all the time is, can you tell me what to do to become more interested in doing my homeworks? I get bored when I start. Probably that happened to you too. The most important thing is to ask yourself why you get bored when you start. Really try to write down the reasons that come to mind. Write it down. Well, it's either the lack of interest in the subject or it's the lack of understanding of the subjects, because the amount of work is probably sometimes too much, and we procrastinate and keep postponing, and so we just can't tackle it all at once. Might be that the reason for you not being so keen about doing that homework. So write the reasons, and then to try to write an action plan that comes to mind to address those problems, those reasons, and also ask for help. Find an accountability partner, a classmate or your teacher or whoever, your parent, someone that can keep you accountable, and maybe you can work together so you feel more responsible and motivated to do it. And try to manage your time by creating a good schedule for the day, and put your homework on those slots between more enjoyable tasks, and alternate between them and do your homework, right? Decide intentionally to do the work, and then reward yourself with something after that you like to do. Also ask yourself, what happens if you keep postponing and not doing the job? Think about the consequences now. And also think about the consequences of doing your work on time and on schedule, and see which one is helping you getting closer to your goals. So one of the best ways is to start also, intentionally decide to start, but start with 5 minutes time slots and see if you can still continue. So start with 5 minutes and then see if you can still go for a little bit more, but start. So the hardest part is always really starting something. So when you do something for 5 minutes, you feel like some gratification for doing it, and you will do some more. That's usually what's going to happen. And do not force yourself to do the whole thing at once, because unless you have no choice and you postponed it and it's the night of the it's due tomorrow and you have to do it. But try to not do it the night before. You have to schedule from weeks before if it's a long project. The third question I get is, how can I control my thoughts? I know they're creating my reality, but I don't know how to control them, right? You might get this question in your head. Well, let me tell you, I heard that the average person thinks about 70,000 thoughts a day. 70,000. That's a lot. So you are the thinker and the observer of your thoughts. You can control your thoughts, but you must pay attention to them. So you can identify who is running the show, right? This will determine which technique you want to use, right? So pay attention and understand who is running the show. Well, okay, so for example, let's talk about the techniques. Begin each day with the intention of paying attention to your thoughts and catching yourself when you're thinking negatively, right? When you catch yourself thinking something negative about yourself, call yourself, for example, names, disrespecting yourself, all of that, just interrupt yourself. So you can, for example, yell in your mind, literally say, stop, no, it's enough. I'm in control now. And then whatever your negative thought was about yourself, replace it with an opposite or counter thought or an affirmation which begins with I am. Like if your brain is telling you, or mind is telling you, your subconscious mind is telling you that you cannot do this because you didn't pass it before, you fail at it before, you say, I'm in control now, and I am ready, and I am capable, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to prove it to myself, okay? So statements like I'm perfect, I'm beautiful, I'm brilliant, and all of that, actually it's better to write them down somewhere that you can see them frequently. You can put them on sticky notes and place them somewhere that you can see. So always have a dialogue with yourself that give yourself credit, value yourself. And if somebody tells you something otherwise, also, the opinion others doesn't matter. Tell yourself that, just because so-and-so said I was this or that, it doesn't make it true. It's either because they don't know me enough, right? Or it's because it's their opinion and it's not my business to care about what they think, right? And if you think and you believe that these self-critical thoughts keep coming back and back, make sure, again, write those positive statements about yourself and put them somewhere that you can see them. The other question is, what do I do if others want to push my self-image down? Actually, I got this question in one of my presentation sessions for youth, and somebody asked me, and I could see actually some of the kids in the room were laughing when she asked that question. So it's a very important question, and there's sometimes bullies around us that want to push our self-image down. So if someone wants to intimidate you, it's because they're insecure. That's the reason. They want to make other people insecure. And those people are verbally, emotionally, physically abusive because they are insecure, and it feels good when they show their own authority or their power over somebody else. And so they want to find somebody to pick on, so they look cool and self-confident, right? Because they want attention, and most likely they are hurt and they want to hurt other people. So we should not let other people make us feel like we are a victim. That is very important. You should tell yourself that their opinion is not relevant to you, and you are who you are, and that was just their opinion. Okay, that's the first thing you need to do. You have to talk to yourself positively. You have to practice self-love and recognize, again, think about your capabilities, your abilities, your strengths, and focus on them. So that's an inner work you're going to do. That's the part that you have to do with yourself. Then talk to your parents, your school counselor, your teachers, and let them know how you feel and that you need help. Make sure you do that. The worst thing you can do is trying to stay silent and not talk to others. And you want to endure this behavior in silence. That's the worst thing you can do. So make sure you talk to someone about that and seek help. The last question I'm being asked is, how can I challenge my self-limiting beliefs? Great question. So when we have self-limiting beliefs, It's because we're not conscious of them, right? If we were conscious, we would not let them to limit us. We don't know they exist. They just live in our subconscious mind, again, in that storage. And as we already said about the subconscious mind, those beliefs control our thoughts. 97% of what we do is controlled by our subconscious mind. So our thoughts, behavior, actions, and results, right? So the very first thing we need to do is to become conscious of them. We try to identify them. So they are our beliefs about ourselves, for example, our life, our potential, about other people. And those beliefs are automatic, right? And we usually do not intentionally choose them, but they are patterns and programs in the subconscious mind. And we are familiar with them. And our brain, again, wants to save energy and wants to go and pick them, right? So we will feel safe when we let them take control of our life. That's a feeling that this thought, this feeling is familiar, and normally we don't like to change anything, because again, our brain wants to protect us from unknown, and we want to save. The brain wants to save energy for these two reasons. Sometimes we even try to resist them, those beliefs, but at the end, because they, feel safe and familiar, they take over and control us and our behavior. The belief that, for example, other people are judging us and we need to stay away from them. See, the previous question is feeling safe if you have done that in the past. It's familiar for someone who's, for example, been bullied before and they're scared of opinion of people and feeling that others are making fun of them. So that's a familiar and safe place to be, to stay away from other people. So again, what do we need to do? We need to do what we are scared about. So we need to first accept that we have these thoughts, we identify them, and then we have to do what we need to do, right? We have to be in control. When that person, for example, is around other people, let's say the person that's been bullied, they feel uncomfortable and they feel others might not like them or probably want to engage with them, then that person needs to realize that this reaction is familiar and very negative, and they think about their conscious desire, what they want to do. Again, we have to do what we need to do. Most of the time, it's possible to recognize these negative behavior and feelings, and we can do the opposite. So we have to observe them, right? Observe them and take action. But by doing that over and over, this program, this familiarity, that pattern, that program will become less effective because we're not doing it, right? And we'll eventually replace it with other behaviors that we want to have, something that we want to happen. And then intentionally we start changing it, and it really changes. And again, it's a process and won't happen overnight, but it is possible, okay? So you can change those familiar patterns and programs gradually, and for sure. And when you replace that limiting beliefs with empowering ones intentionally, every time they come to surface, you observe them, you change them intentionally, they will weaken, those limiting beliefs, they'll weaken, and they become less powerful, and then they eventually get really, really weak and they go away. Now I want us to watch the animation video, and I want you to please get your pen and paper ready because you want to write these strategies. So here I want to say goodbye to you. I hope this was useful for you, and I wish you a wonderful year ahead. Believe in yourselves and work hard, and don't forget to prime your brain, okay? Have a wonderful day, and let me share now my